Hi, welcome to Water Resources in the Environment. In this hopefully short informational video, I'm going to be giving you a quick tour of the specifications grading system that we will use in this class. And I'll also be talking about the learning objectives and how they fit into this, assignment types, and give you some more details on how the term paper works for this class. So first of all, why am I using a different grading system in this class? Well, I think probably a lot of us have had the experience where in previous classes, we've studied a lot for the test, we've learned a lot, but then the test day arrived and we had a bad day and we felt like our grade didn't really reflect our understanding of the course. Or maybe you learned a lot, but it turned out that you studied the wrong things for the test because it just wasn't really clear what in this fire hose of information you were really supposed to internalize and digest. Or maybe you've gotten poor grades in courses before because you had a really tricky schedule for whatever reason that kept you from meeting key deadlines, and there wasn't a lot of flexibility built into that class. Well, these are all reasons why traditional grading isn't necessarily aligned with how much people actually learned, and isn't necessarily fair for all classes of people. And there are a lot of studies out there that show that with traditional grading systems, you tend to get disparities in grades between different racial groups or economic classes. So to address this problem, a woman named Linda Nilsson wrote a book in 2015 that introduced a new style of grading that was designed to assess students more equitably and in a way that was more transparent and more aligned with learning objectives. And she called this strategy for grading specifications grading. And where that term comes from is it's really derived from your ability to meet different specifications for the class, specifications that are tied to learning objectives. So the way that we do assessment in the real world also isn't like traditional grading systems. Like if you go to take a test to get your driver's license, if you fail that test the first time, you'll have future opportunities to demonstrate mastery of the concepts behind driving and actually get that test. And it works similarly with workplace training too. You typically have multiple chances to demonstrate mastery of the training objectives. That's how specifications grading works. The assessment is really based on whether you have mastered certain learning objectives that are clearly defined up front. And if you don't master them on the first try, well, then you get another chance to demonstrate that mastery. And so really foundational to specifications grading is what the learning objectives are of the course. And that's actually where I started when I redesigned this course, which I've taught several times in the past, for this specifications grading system. So I'm going to go ahead and share my screen here. This is a document that you've all hopefully received or have access to on B courses. And it's called Learning Objectives. What will you be learning this semester? And so if we just scroll down in the document, I actually started my course design with 4 questions that I wanted you to be able to address by the end of the semester. And then underneath each one of these core questions, Q1, Q2, and so on, I've identified more specific learning objectives and how your mastery of those concepts, of those learning objectives, will be assessed. And so hopefully this makes it very clear to you what you are expected to learn through this semester. And I'll note that these questions, Q1, Q2, I think there's like 16 of them, are all referenced in the syllabus on the week or on this specific class that they correspond to. And so this could help direct your focus in class, and it could help direct your studying and your assessment. So the way in which assessments will be done is through several different mechanisms. There are quizzes that are associated with individual questions or sometimes groups of questions. And these quizzes will be administered online through B courses. I still have some, at the time of this recording, have a few technicalities to work out with that, but I'll make sure that's clearly communicated. And these quizzes are also open book, open notes. You take them on your own time. You can take them and retake them for a total of 3 times without any sort of additional penalty. And I'll describe what I mean by this use of a token in a moment. And these quiz questions are things that will be formulated directly from those learning objectives. So those learning objectives should serve as an excellent study guide. So quizzes are kind of the bread and butter of the course. At the most basic level, they demonstrate mastery. And if you are okay with being in one of the lower grade bundles for this class, you really should be focusing your effort on those quizzes, which are conceptual. The remainder of the types of assessments are extra things that you will do to apply your understanding of those concepts that we've covered in class. So we have research assignments, which require you to spend a little bit of time doing research on the internet or sometimes in journals, and you would produce a short write-up based on what you've found. We have a number of in-class assignments. These cover actually several different types of these types of assignments. Some of them are more research related. Some are really just based on discussion. But these are assignments that you're expected to be in class to complete. And for certain grade bundles, you need to, at least once over the course of the semester, fulfill different roles in the small groups that we'll be doing these assignments in. So we'll typically have someone who's a recorder and someone who's a reporter back to the class after we've broken out into the smaller groups. There are a couple of public policy assignments. These are things that require you to tune into a public meeting. A lot of these are available through Zoom and potentially to engage with those meetings. Then we have a term project, and I'll spend a little bit of this video elaborating on the term project. Basically, there's a menu of choices for the topic of the project that you can choose between. And you will work either as an individual or within groups on one of those topics. But within those topics, you have some liberty to choose which questions you're really interested in pursuing. Maybe you're not interested in pursuing some of the sub-questions provided in that menu, and that's okay. We have a few data assignments as well that require you to look at plots or to access data sets, real world data, and work with it, manipulate it, interpret it. And then there are also essay assignments that should be informed by your reading. And in those essay assignments, it's really key for you to make an argument and then defend it using concepts from class or points from the literature. So I'm going to let you all take your own time to look at the questions that we'll be addressing through the course of the class and how they will be assessed. And so instead, now what I'm going to do is turn our attention to the syllabus to talk a little bit more about this specifications grading approach. So with specifications grading, you theoretically have complete control over your grade because you have multiple chances to demonstrate mastery of certain topics. And you can also pick and choose between different combinations of these assignment types that you're willing to do in order to get the desired grade that you want. And so the grades are really designated as certain bundles of assignments and quizzes, which are explained here. And I should just back up and say, at the outset, specifications grading sounds a lot more complicated than traditional grading, and it is. But I'll say, take the time in the beginning of this semester to learn about these details. It's like learning how to play a new game. I don't know if any of you like Wingspan. That's a very popular board game right now that I happen to enjoy. But when you're learning how to play it, it sounds so complicated. And then once you get into it, you start to really just understand the rules and internalize them, and they become second nature. So I've given you a lot of tools to get organized for this class with respect to the specifications grading system. You just need to make sure you understand it at the outset. So anyway, go through these bundles to see what is expected of you for each grade. I want to say a little bit about how I made these decisions on what constitutes an A bundle, a B bundle, and a C bundle, and so on. First of all, I want to start with the lowest grade you could get and still pass the class. I'm assuming that students in this bundle have to demonstrate understanding of most of the concepts that we'll cover in this class in order to honestly pass the class. But people who fall into this category might not have a lot of time to do additional assignments. Maybe they haven't managed their time effectively. They can't be in class very often. So there's kind of a minimal bundle of external assignments that needs to be completed. But there is more of an emphasis on the quiz, and they have to have a certain level of performance on the final exam. If you move up to the C bundle, you'll see that there's still an emphasis on quizzes, but there are a few more assignments. You'll note, however, that there is no term paper that's required for the C bundle. Instead of a term paper, again, meeting a certain threshold of performance on the final exam is needed. As we move up to the A bundle and the B bundle, though, you'll see that there's no requirement to take or achieve a certain level of performance on the final exam. That's not included in these bundles. Instead, you do need to do a term project and meet a certain level of quality with that term project. And I'll get into what these grades of E or M are in a moment. There's also a larger number of additional assignments associated with each one of those bundles. Okay, so that kind of explains the logic of, like, in my mind, like, what kind of mastery do you have to demonstrate to pass versus what kind of mastery do you need to demonstrate in order to pass with an excellent grade like an A. I also wanted to make sure that it's feasible for you all to complete these bundles, to complete the hardest bundle, the A bundle, given the expectations associated with the amount of time you should be investing in university classes. And so the syllabus explains a little bit how I made this calculation. And this is something, I'm just trying to find it here. This is something that I think should help you manage your time. Because for a lot of these external assignments, you could dive in really deep. You could get really excited about the topic and spend a lot of time on them and not really know what's expected. This section of the syllabus establishes, like, what I expect your investment to be. A lot of the external assignments are going to be fairly open-ended. And so these expectations around time management should help you gauge the amount of effort that you should be putting into these assignments and not put in a lot more time than I've budgeted here. And so a semester consists of 13 weeks of instruction. And each week, this is standard across the university. It's expected that students invest 2 hours of outside class time for every hour of class time in the classroom. So for our class, this equals about 6 hours you should be spending outside of class each week. And that includes the work that you do on completing the assigned reading. And that's actually the biggest category that I've assumed here. Your experience in this class will be so much richer if you complete the reading than if you don't. Then I'm assuming that you would spend about an hour and a half each week studying and completing your quizzes on your own time. And then that leaves an additional 2 hours of work to work on these external assignments, these additional deliverables. And so based on those calculations, I figured out how many of each types of these assignments make sense without overloading you. And for that calculation, I assumed that the term project would require about 10 hours of your time through the course of the semester. Research assignments would be about 3 hours each. Public policy assignments also about 3 hours. The data assignments about 1.5 hours each. And then the essay would take you about 4 hours, including research. So if you find that these estimates are pretty far off from what you feel you actually need to do, come talk to me, and we could either talk about strategies to work more efficiently, or since this is the first time offering this class as a specifications grading class, it might be the case that I need to make adjustments on my end some of the time. And I want to know about that because I don't want this class to take up all of your time. You all have lives and classes outside of this one. Okay, where should I go next? I think what I will do next is there's a few other things I want to say about how these specifications grades work. So I've already mentioned that the final exam is not needed to get an A or a B, but it is needed if you're in the C bundle or the D bundle. So that's just one of the little nuances. Term project is only needed for an A and a B, but not a C and a D. So that's just a reminder of some things that we've covered already. But I'm going to make it a little more complicated now. So in her book on specifications grading, Linda Nilsson recommends that part of specifications grading is a token economy, which gives you added flexibility in meeting your requirements, and can also just demonstrate if you really get impassioned about something and want to dive into it and spend a lot of time on it, that work can be recognized through this token economy. So in this class, you start out with no tokens. Tokens are these imaginary things, but I keep track of them on B courses, and I'll provide you with some tools to keep track of them as well. So there are ways to earn tokens, and once you have those tokens, they can earn you certain privileges in the class, which is either more flexibility on certain aspects of the class, or in some cases, you can redeem those tokens at the end of the semester for a boost in your grade. So there are several ways to earn tokens. The simplest is after you listen to this and after you review the syllabus on your own, take the syllabus quiz. If you pass that, you automatically get a token, and it's going to be pretty easy. It's open book, so you could refer to the syllabus directly, but unlike the other quizzes, you'll only have one chance to take the syllabus quiz. Also, another thing you could do right now is once you've internalized how these rules work, I want you to submit a plan for how you will earn your desired grade in this class. So take a look at the whole schedule that's at the end of the syllabus and maybe identify some of the topics and some of the choices of each types of these assignments that are most interesting to you. In all cases, there are more options available than are required for any one bundle. And so that should go into this plan too. I'd also like you to think through, like, let's say something unexpected happens through the course of the semester. You get really busy. You no longer feel like you can invest the amount of time needed to get yourself into the A bundle. Or maybe your anticipated assignment that you really wanted to do isn't going to work out for some reason, and so you need a plan B. So discuss some contingencies if your plan A doesn't transpire. You'll have a chance to do a mid-semester assessment of that plan, and that is something that can earn you another token. You could also earn tokens for doing extra assignments of certain types, the research, public policy, data, or essay assignment. And you can earn a token by completing and passing all quizzes and in-class activities. And you could earn another token by completing a certain number of each of these types of assignments by approximately the midway point of the semester around October 15th. Okay, so why do you want these tokens? What can you do with them once you get them? That's this spending category here. So the term paper has some intermediate deadlines associated with it. This is one of the only types of assessments in this class that has hard deadlines associated with it. So you could spend a token to push back those deadlines by a week. You don't have to email me. You don't have to email the grader. Just submit your assignment a week late and I'll automatically take off one of your tokens. You could also spend a token to waive a requirement for serving as a recorder or a reporter for in-class assignments. You can you could spend a token by not having a baseline number of assignments completed by the midway point of the semester. And I put this in too. This is also something that's automatic. I put this in because I don't want to be in a situation where all of the assessments are being submitted in the last few weeks of the semester. That's a huge burden on me. It's a huge burden on the grader. And it really harms you because then you don't have a chance to revise and resubmit things that you did not demonstrate mastery on the first time. Okay. You can also use a token if you need to attempt a quiz more than 3 times. And then you can use two tokens to turn in one deliverable during the final exam week instead of the hard deadline that's otherwise imposed in this class of the 13th of December. So there are a few other considerations with this token economy. They can impact your final grade. If you end up with a negative token balance at the end of the semester, this adds a minus to your final grade. And I should say that like every one increment of one token that's negative would lower your grade by another half step. So for instance, you were in the A bundle, but you had a balance of -2 tokens, that would make you end up as a B+ instead of an A-. Okay. If you end up with 4 tokens that are unused at the end of the semester, then you could either add a plus to your final grade or count one assignment that you turned in that you didn't meet the quality standard for mastery on towards bundle completion. And so, for example, if someone who has otherwise met all A bundle requirements received a grade on their term paper that's lower than the grade expected and didn't have a chance to revise that, then they could redeem 4 tokens to still earn an A in the class. So pay attention to those tokens. They're pretty easy to get. I'd advise you to get as many of these tokens as you can, because they'll help you in the end and just give you a lot more flexibility. Okay, I'll let you read the specifications for the final exam on their own. I want to say a little bit more about the term project, and then I'll get into some more specific details on the term project. Actually, before I do that, before I talk about the more complicated grading that's associated with the term project, let me talk a little bit more about how the quizzes and the other assignments will be graded. So I think I've already mentioned that mastery of the quizzes is a score of 80% or more. So that is pretty straightforward. For the other types of assignments, you'll basically be assigned a binary grade: meets specifications or needs revision. And it should be clear to you how to get a meets specification, because each of these assignments has a rubric associated with it that you will have access to. So the first assignment that's posted that you could get started on right away if you wanted to is a research assignment on where does your water come from in your hometown. And there are a number of specific questions that you're asked to address through your research of the water system that supplies your town with water, if it is a water system even, where they're getting their water, how secure that water is, what are some of the concerns associated with future management of that water resource. And so this assignment also explains what the final deliverable is. And there's a rubric at the bottom. So the rubric tells you what you need to demonstrate in this assignment in order to meet specifications of mastery. Okay, and if you don't meet this, for instance, if your writing was just really hard to understand, then you would get a needs revision, and the aspect of the rubric that in particular needs revision would be circled, and you would have a chance to resubmit that assignment. The term project is a little bit different. So the term project will be graded with a slightly more complex grading scheme. This is also common across different institutions and professors that implement specifications grading. So this is called the EMRN grading scheme. And basically, it kind of explodes this binary designation as to whether the work does or does not meet expectations into one higher level of detail. So E and M are both considered as meeting specifications, but a grade of E is excellent or exemplary, and a grade of M simply meets expectations, but perhaps doesn't rise to the level of an E grade. So again, with the term project, there will be a rubric that will be distributed that will explain like what constitutes an E grade, what constitutes an M grade, what constitutes an R, and what constitutes an N. And again, you will have an opportunity to revise your deliverable for the term project if you are aiming for an A, for instance, and you end up with a grade of M instead of the required E. So for this reason, it's really important to try to get your draft of the term paper in before the hard deadline, or as far like on the hard deadline is acceptable, but it's in your best interest to actually turn it in earlier, because then I'll have more of a chance to read through the term project, give you feedback, and you'll have more of a chance to make revisions. And it's much better to do this not at the very end of the semester when everyone's going to be busy with a lot of things. Okay, so I think I've covered these things. Let me switch over now to the document that I've prepared on the term project assignment. And again, this is something that's good for you to read through early in the semester. So one of the really cool things about being at an R1 institution, this is a research-focused institution like Berkeley, is that many times there's a close linkage, or ideally there's a close linkage between research that's at the forefront of the discipline and teaching. And I am hoping to integrate this class with research that is happening at Berkeley to really re-envision the future of California's water supply in a way that makes it more resilient to climate change and more equitable in terms of water, in terms of how water is distributed. And this is a massive project. It's being led by Ted Grantham at UC Berkeley. I was one of the developers of the project, but it also involves researchers from 6 other UCs, from CSU, Sacramento, and a lot of external partners, including partners at state agencies. It's a project that was ultimately funded by the legislature in order to help California meet its climate resilience goals. And so there is a direct policy application of this work. The researchers within the project are really looking to draw upon the collective wisdom of Californians. They're eager to hear from students. They're eager for feedback on how we're communicating information about these potential water futures. There are also some needs associated with the project. Like, we are doing a lot of modeling of alternative operational futures and climate futures for California. But in the modeling world, what we're actually changing in the models doesn't necessarily have a direct linkage to some of the policies that we know are of interest to Californians and are being considered by our state government. And so there's this need to really translate information about like what might be achievable in terms of water savings if we implement aquifer recharge of floodwaters, for example. What implications could that have throughout the California water system? So there's a need to translate what's achievable into what we're actually doing in the model. And so the term projects that I've developed for this class are things that can help us do that translation and actually address Californians' questions about, well, should we be investing in managed aquifer recharge? Should we be trying to scale up our portable household water reuse, our rainfall collection efforts, our gray water systems? And so this is a chance for you to get involved in that research. And if you're interested in continuing with the project team and really going the next level and applying what you've been able to do in this term project to what will be ultimately be some of the deliverables of that project, there will be that opportunity for you. So I acknowledge that because this is a lot of times original research, you might not achieve all the goals that you initially thought you were setting out to do, because maybe that information doesn't exist yet, or you might be uncomfortable because you have to make a large number of assumptions in order to generate an estimate of how much water might be saved by a particular technology when scaled up at the statewide level. So that's okay. You're not going to be judged on your ability to find resources that don't exist. You're not going to be judged on achieving a right answer. But what you will be judged on is your ability to defend the choices that you made and articulate why you made those choices. And you know, you are expected to document how you tried to find your sources and what exists and what doesn't in terms of addressing some of these questions. So some logistics for the term projects, they can be completed in a group of up to 4 students or by individuals. And one of the intermediate deadlines for the term project is just to submit basically a quick blurb of which of these projects you're interested on a spreadsheet that will be linked on B courses. And this will help you do matchmaking with others in the class that you might not know yet. I'm not going to play a role here. I do expect that you would self-identify matches and contact those people with the email addresses that they provide on that spreadsheet. It's also okay to work as an individual, and it is expected that the scope of your term project would be a little smaller if you're working as an individual compared to working within a group. Okay. Again, this is something I'm interested in. This is an active area of research for me and others in Berkeley. So see me as a resource to help you as you're trying to figure out how to approach your term paper topic. I have hopefully jump-started you with some reference ideas and literature search ideas in this document. But as you gather ideas on like what a feasible scope for your group might be, please come talk to me or at least communicate with me by email. If you find yourself getting stuck, again, come talk to me and hopefully I'll be able to help. So the first intermediate deadline is just this indication of interest. If you aren't interested in working with a group, don't worry about this. This is not a deadline that will cost you a token if you don't meet. But the second deadline is, and this is a deadline to submit a prospectus for your work. And again, this will help me to work effectively with you and ensure that you're getting your thinking on this project started early through the course of the semester. And then the second intermediate deadline that will cost you a token if you miss it will be to submit an annotated bibliography of the references that you're using as you address the key questions that are a part of your term project. Okay. I think I've covered a lot of this with respect to references. Citing your references properly is really important. This document provides you with some guidance on how to do that. But I will also say that in contrast to other classes where your research might need to be just focused on journal articles, here, the gray literature, like agency reports and documents, is very much fair game because this is where you'll find a lot of information on current water policies in California. Your deliverable will be a final report for your term project. And this could either be just a document, or you could get a little more creative and convert it to something like an ArcGIS story map. The hard deadline for the first draft of the project is the 3rd of December, but again, you're encouraged to submit it earlier than that. And then if you need to revise your project, you can submit a revision up to the end of instruction. Okay, so here's the menu of projects. If I just scroll up a little bit, I'll say most of these term projects deal with the overarching question of whether particular technologies or interventions might be a big effect or small effect in helping California adapt to its new climate reality and achieve a more equitable approach to water governance. There are a few useful references that will provide you with some indication of how water flows throughout the Sacramento-San Joaquin water distribution system now. So at least take a look at these as you're getting started with your project so you can know what sort of information is there. This one in particular, which details the water planning model used by the U.S. Bureau of Reclamation and California Department of Water Resources, is really a mammoth. It's a behemoth. So if there's something specific that you're hoping to get out of that, please come talk to me. I spent some time over the summer reading every page in that document and identifying the assumptions that are used in that water planning model. So I am pretty familiar with it. Okay, in terms of the menu of projects, these projects tend to be focused on strategies that decrease the demand for water from our surface water delivery systems, or projects that might enhance the supply of water into that water system. So these are strategies, the demand reduction strategies deal with desalination, Central Valley Aquifer recharge, the water circular economy, setting different demands that in a way that really embraces equity, agricultural transformation, and then we get into the altered inflow strategies, and these include watershed interventions like forest thinning and wet meadow restoration. So I hope that you'll get really excited about one of these topics. I'm very passionate about them, and I'm so eager to see what you come up with through the course of the semester. Okay, we're just about at the end of this content here. Let me just return to the syllabus, and I will scroll down. So this is the portion of the syllabus that divides up these learning objectives and questions into specific class periods and weeks. And it shows related assessments or tokens. Generally, these assessment opportunities will be made available right after class on the day that they are listed. And then the final thing I wanted to share with you, which should be a resource for you through the semester, is a goal progress checklist that I hope will make accounting for the specifications that you need to meet within each bundle a little more transparent. So these are just bubbles that you could check off or highlight. You could print this out if you're a fan of paper. You could fill it out in Adobe or your tablet if you're a fan of electronic documents. But this shows all the categories of assessment here and what is required for each grade. And so the boldface O's are the ones that are required. So you can see that I think there's 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8, 9, 10 quizzes that must be passed for an A or a D, 9 for a B, 8 for a C. And these thin lines also show you the boundary for each grade level. This document also allows you to keep track of the tokens. I should say that the other quizzes or opportunities to complete assignments that are available that you don't have to do within your bundle are shown by the gray dots on the other side of that thin line. And there is a token associated with doing extra assignments or passing all of your quizzes and in-class exercises. So this is a way to keep track of that. And you could also keep track of your duty to fulfill the role of recorder and reporter for the in-class assignments. I think the one thing I didn't mention that I'm reminded by looking at this checklist is that for the A, B, and C bundle, you have to give a presentation in the final week of instruction throughout the semester. And this is pretty open-ended. You could give a presentation on a research assignment, on one of your essays. I anticipate a lot of you will want to give your presentation on the term project, though, because that's what you would have invested the most in. But this is just an opportunity for you to share with your classmates something that really interested you in what you learned through the course of the semester. So because the presentation isn't required for all grade packages, I'll have an opportunity to sign up as we're getting close to the end of the semester. And based on the number of people that sign up, that will set the duration of each presentation. So again, let me know if you have any questions. I hope this makes some of the logistics of the class clearer to you. And good luck. I'm really looking forward to meeting you all and spending the semester with you.